Here we go then, folks. It's the big one. Welcome to Carrow Road, East Anglian Derby Day. Norwich City welcoming Ipswich Town to NR1, hoping to reclaim that Pride of Anglia tag. And as we record, the Ipswich Town players are just making their way into Carrow Road. They've come in via the side of the Barclay between that and the away fans, which is new. Certainly not something we've seen before, and not quite sure on the reasons for that. But lots of, as you imagine, police presence inside Carrow Road.
I was just going to say that Mark Ashton might be making an appearance today on the bench because he walked round with them as well.
Wasn't quite in club tracksuit, but not far off. No, not at all. But good to see him getting involved there. And it's the same corner, if you remember, in that infamous November period that the Norwich players left out of after that Leicester game amid all the protests. That is where they have arrived. We've got 2 minutes or so until the team news this morning ahead of that 12:30 kickoff here at Carrow Road, as Norwich City try and continue what has been a real resurgence under Philippe Clement, and of course in doing so taking back that crown to be the Pride of Anglia after that October game. And I think, Paddy, as ever with these games, you walk around the stadium, you get into the stadium, it's just always a different buzz, a different feeling about it when Norwich City face their Suffolk rivals.
Yeah, because it means so much. Saw a nice post on X actually yesterday. I can't think now. Apologies, but it's kind of just talking about, two counties separated by one border and a lot of enmity in a footballing sense. And, hopefully that stays on the pitch today. That's what I'd say firstly. But there's no doubt, my best memory is doing this job without a green and yellow allegiance, not until my son decided he was going to be an Uber Norwich fan, are these games. 15-16 stands out, obviously, but the Tim Closer header, that one down here. You know what I thought about today when I woke up, looked out, and it was quite grey, and, the Grant Holt one here. Was that 4-1?
Yep.
With the hat-trick that day, where it was a similar type of cold, wet, miserable weather, but boy, were Norwich red hot that day, and I'd settle for a repeat of that scoreline. But, strangely, I don't have any nerves on this one. I think I was more nervous going to Portman Road because you probably feared what the outcome would be, and it wouldn't be a positive one, and sadly we were proven all right on that one. But
sorry to interject, because we have the team news for you, and the kind of headline news is that Norwich City are unchanged today. It's Kovacevic in goal, Stacey, Darling, Cordoba and Fisher, the back four, Matson and Field, the midfield two. Kenny McLean continues on the right-hand side with Ahmed on the left, Anis Ben Slimani behind Matthias Criscore, and the subs bench: Grimshaw, McConville, Crisene, Gibbs, Wright, Makoma, Forson, Schwartau and Toure. So I make that just one change from the entire squad that won at Millwall on Monday, and that is that Rory McConville makes the bench in place of Jakov Medic. Other than that, it is as you were from a Norwich City perspective. They are the 11 that Philippe Clement has selected to hopefully bring Norwich City's Derby Day dominance back after what's been such a long period, obviously without a defeat, as Paddy mentioned, that one in October, which I think everyone of a yellow and green persuasion was a little bit resigned to in the end. Lots of arguments maybe to start different players there, Paddy, in terms of, I think Mo Toure maybe the biggest one. Oscar Schwartau, I'm sure, advanced his cause. Do you bring Ben Crisene in? Do you bring Rory McConville back in? But actually, that's a real show of faith from Philippe Clement in the team that started in that game at Millwall on Bank Holiday Monday.
Yeah, I was just going to go and dive for the matchday programme today because I just had a flick through Philippe Clement's column and he talked about, paraphrasing, but it was along the lines of that was almost a complete performance. Could have won by a more handsome margin. Against the team who were second at kick-off on that occasion, going for promotion. Norwich were far better, superior in every department. It was a travesty they fell behind after the first half, but they did, and then they showed that resilience that they might need again today. So why, if you felt that, wouldn't you go with the same 11 when Kellen Fisher clearly had proven his fitness during the week? So, I'm not surprised, but within that, you teed it up, Connor. Maybe you thought because he was so good when he came on in the second half at Millwall, Mo Toure would start today. It might be a better suited option to go with him from the start. But equally, if he liked what he saw from Chris Gordon, it was almost a softening up process that he helped achieve, and then you introduce Mo Toure, and we saw what he did, albeit in more in an assist capacity than goal scoring. But just his physicality and his presence and his ability to stretch the play were quite big, I thought, in the final 20 minutes at the Den. So, not surprised. Surprised would be the wrong word, but I wouldn't have been duly caught out if it had been Toure in and Chris Gordon out. But nevertheless, I think if, as he clearly, Philippe Clement felt that was a very, very good performance, you reward those players again and say, same again, lads.
You do indeed. Some reaction there coming through. Luke happy with that line-up. And Gary made the point as well. We also have, you can see there, so a new addition. We're testing if it works today. We've got a match day poll there as well, so you can kind of get your prediction in down below. I think you've got to put 1, 2, or 3 in the chat, depending on who you foresee winning this game. And you can see some people have done that. So thank you for doing that, and we'll keep an eye on that as the live rolls on. But yeah, what it does do, and what we saw on Easter Monday in particular, maybe for the first time in a significant period of time for Philippe Clement, is there are options off the bench to change the game, to do things slightly different tactically, and introducing Toure, introducing Schwartau, such a big impact, but also a sort of level of change in terms of as Norwich have gone on that we haven't really seen under him in that sense. So having that luxury is, it is a luxury for Philippe Clement, given what he's had to deal with the injured, or the amount of injuries, and obviously there are still some really important players still missing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's encapsulated that kind of flexibility that hitherto he hasn't really been able to do. Is Kenny McLean playing on the right hand side of the free? You know, we were down there yesterday at Colney. Adam spoke to him. He basically said, when asked about that, look, I feel comfortable now. I know where I need to be on the pitch. I understand the game. I'm at that point in his career where he doesn't get shunted out from his preferred position and feels I'm out of my comfort zone. No, I thought he was good. And clearly that wasn't just a tactical thing to, nullify what Millwall were going to offer, because he's in again today. We haven't confirmed that, but I think it's safe to say he probably is going to be on the right again of that 3. And he's able to do that because in Field and Maatsen, he has very good operators in that 6 role, and even Jacob Wright if he needed to turn to. So, yeah, I think that probably for me underscores where he is now, Philippe Clement, in terms of personnel, availability, flexibility tactically, and where he was probably at every previous point since he came in the building. And it's to his credit and to the coaching staff and those players that despite those hurdles, they kick off today, and as he was very keen to point out, level in terms of over the last 25 games with Ipswich, who are, it would seem now, in the driving seat, given they've got games in hand in the race to get back to the Premier League. That is the level of consistency this group, injury hit or not, have produced. And you would hope, it feels logical to stay, but if you can look at a bench and it has Oscar Schwartau on, and it has Paris Mahoma, and it has Mo Toure, they're all really good impact players who could come into this team and the level doesn't drop. I don't think that was necessarily the case without picking out individuals at most of the time that Philippe's been in charge. So it can only improve Norwich's chances today, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this comment here from Adi in terms of starting Toure, I think that was certainly where my head was at today after that impact. But I guess you have to remember that he's still pretty early back from that injury that he had. I'm sure there'll be a degree of management about that, given, and I think Philippe Clement has spoken about this before, he does have an injury history, doesn't he, in terms of picking up those issues. Maybe it does make sense to have a more powerful, more impactful 45 in the second half from Mo Toure, as we saw on Monday, and that can be really positive. But for me, I mean, and you touched upon it there, it's behind the striker where those real opportunities are. Makoma, Schwartau, Forsen, Jacob Wright, lots of difference in there in terms of and variety in terms of what Philippe Clement can do to get Taylor to whatever the particular game state is at that time. And
the one that stands out, because maybe because he scored the other day, but he scored it in Portman Road as well, didn't he? But Oscar Schwartau, and well worth a watch if you haven't already, Kenny's sort of pre-match yesterday, because Adam asked him about Schwartau, and I don't think effusive is an understatement. What he had to say about that player, you forget now how young he is. I think he's still 19, isn't he? If not, he's soon to be 20. And it's frightening, really, the amount of game time he's had now, but also the influence that he is bringing to bear. And yeah, I know he probably won't be in the run-in to win the Player of the Year, but it'll be a shout for saying that he should be certainly in the shortlist, because he has just been through very difficult periods, and now hopefully an upward curve. He's been very consistent, and he's only ready at the start of his career. But there's no doubt, if he was to come on in the second half today, you feel he could affect the game in a positive way, just with his power encapsulated, not by the goal so much. That was a very calm finish, but that ability to pick the ball up, drive through the middle of the park, tiring defences, and then create opportunities for others maybe. And and we've obviously spoken about Toure, but even Mahoma today, it might be one of those games where first hour or so it's a bit tight, it's a bit cagey, and then when it starts to open up, we've seen now what Mahoma can bring. Certainly when you're looking for somebody to thread balls through tight spaces, congested areas, he has that ability. So there's no doubt. I haven't looked at the 20 who lined up at Portman Road, but I think it's probably night and day if you look at the options and the depth that Norwich have available.
It is. Right, let's bring you the Ipswich Town 11, I guess the headline from maybe a Norwich City perspective. Marcelino Nunez on the bench for Ipswich Town this lunchtime, which means he's going to have quite the reception, I'd imagine, as he goes to warm up in front of the Snake Pit this afternoon. Ipswich Town line up with Walton in goal. It's Furlong, O'Shea, Greaves and Davis. Leave Davis back from three-match suspension, of course. Taylor and Matasiwa is the midfield too. Ben Johnson, usually a fullback, is playing as a right winger. Philogene comes back for his first start since the middle of January on the left-hand side. He, of course, scored against Norwich in that game at Portman Road back in October, with Anis Mehmeti, former Norwich City Academy graduate, with George Hurst leading the line for them. Their subs-bench: Palmer, Kipray, Neal, Nunez, McAteer, Egley, Clark, Akpom and Azon, which is 4 changes from their 2-1 win over Birmingham. And I mean, as we said there, Paddy, I mean, we've seen Marcelino Nunez come in. He seemed to have quite a big guy next to him. I don't know if we're going quite bodyguard territory, but he definitely had someone big next to him.
Unless he's an expert in martial arts, I wouldn't have thought he'd be able to get in the way. Not that we're advocating that in the slightest.
He
make it loud, but leave it there.
Yeah, he's done an interview with Sky, hasn't he? And speaking about obviously the switch and the reception, basically saying that he's expecting that. He's used to this kind of thing in South America. It's going to be tasty, isn't it, when he emerges?
What was the takeaway line? He moved to be a champion.
Yeah.
I don't think you don't get a trophy for finishing second, do you? As far as I'm aware, but
I might do these days actually.
Who are they? My eye is caught to middle of the pitch as some Ipswich personnel. Are they just players?
I think they're players. Yeah.
There's 5. I'm going to describe the scene here. There's 5 Ipswich players in a tight huddle. Dare one say it's almost offering up some.
Looks like a prayer or something.
Prayers, yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, can't tell you the identity. I think is that Nunez there?
Looks like Nunez with his back to us.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Divine intervention, then. Yeah. So, where were we?
We were talking about him, weren't we?
Yeah. I mean, he's it's all been said, hasn't it? I mean, what he is we have to be honest. He is a very good player at this level when he's fit and he's available. Technically, very good. Set pieces, very good. Go back to the last time these two teams met here, he settled it with that free kick. I don't think the keeper for Ipswich covered himself in glory, but he was the match winner. And then promptly, I think there was frames of him tapping the badge, so he's fond of a badge tap. But what I liked yesterday from McLean and Clement was they shut down anything to do with him, anything to do with the Portman Road game. Very calm, very measured, clearly embraced what this game means for the fan base, for them as players. But there was a real, I thought, calmness, a serenity almost to how those manager and player were talking, and that is the way for me to go today. You don't get caught up in Nunez, don't get caught up in the whole hype. As Philippe said, the emotion is for the fans. Today, for these players, it's, yes, play with passion, but also, you have to be cool, you have to be clinical, and you just have to, as he said, don't treat this as a game unlike any other. It's another link in the chain. That winning mentality, which they have now shown very well in 26, go with that approach again today, and then everything else takes care of itself. Just go and win the game. Do what you need to do to get the better of Ipswich, wherever they've identified they may be slightly weak. For me, I look at their away form. It's strange. I think they're in the top 3 points haul at Portman Road this season. I think they're 11th in the away form table. I think they've drawn 3 or 4 of their last 5 away from home. That tells me they're not good travellers. And okay, yeah, they'll certainly be up for it today. But, is there a vulnerability there? And if there is, fan base, players, Clement, coaching staff, they can hopefully exploit that. So, yeah, it was all about Nunez before the first game. And there's no doubt, as soon as he comes to warm up, he will get it verbally, I'm sure. But it can't be about him today. It's got to be about Norwich. It's got to be about Philippe Clement, those players, these fans, unity, synergy, to use Philippe's word, and then just get the job done. And then, then they can revel to their heart's content at the misfortune of a player who was on one side of the Derby ledger and is now on the other side. But it's not about him, is it? This is bigger, far bigger. And we just hope that he doesn't quite, because he came on, didn't he, in the Portman Road game and had an impact for the 3rd goal. So that is not the story we want today. We want it to be Schwarzer coming on, Torre coming on, and affecting the play. And but it certainly does what it does do, and Kenny did acknowledge it. The reception for him is going to be off the chart, and that's probably going to amp up the home fans. So I think it might actually work in Norwich's favour, really. Not that they need a unifying presence today, but they do have a villain in their midst. So, if it's not going to be spicy enough, that simply does throw a log or two on the fire, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think the fact he's not starting as well probably helps take that focus off him. Yeah. Certainly initially, anyway. You shouldn't imagine he's going to be too keen to get out there and start his warm up.
Bring the crash helmet if he's going.
Yeah. Well, actually, there are. We're looking at the city stand. They've got a kind of a. What would you say? There are bits of card, haven't they, for fans?
I think it's going to be a bit of a display here.
Yeah, which it looks like it could be quite good. Which is
we won't see it. Though.
We won't see it. No, but it'll be in front of us. But to be fair, there's some in the south stand as well. I can see some in the lower river end. I think the Barclay's got some. There's also going to be a surfer in the lower Barclay as well, unveiled in terms of just over those 2 blocks behind the goal. So interested to see kind of what the message will be on that, but it's going to be interesting. As I said,
how's that poll going?
You can join in 67. On the poll. You just have to got 3 options there: 1 for a Norwich win, 2 for a draw, 3 for obviously the unthinkable, which I see no one has gone for, and you can bring that there by just putting in the number of the comments of the one you want to say, and you can see now heavily weighted in Norwich City's favour. Me and Paddy will bring our predictions in a moment. Paddy, I mean, obviously we've both seen plenty of these derbies. What are the ingredients? What are Norwich City going to need to show today to get on the right side of a result?
I mean, when we put that to Philippe yesterday, he in terms of the mechanics of the game, he felt they are very strong defensively, and any chances you do create, there has to be a clinical edge. And Norwich have shown that certainly in recent times. Because I think they've got good enough players, they will create chances, but they'll clearly need to take them. And as anybody who was either there at Portman Road or watched it from afar, they equally have very good individual players in their ranks in attacking areas, probably a cut above this level, which they should be given the money they've expended. So I guess it's in terms of the game, it's just individual Norwich players doing their jobs, winning their individual duels, and then collectively. I'm really intrigued to see how Clement goes up tactically against McKenna, because I think it's safe to say, McKenna did a job on Manning. Wasn't the only one in that sense, but tactically they were far too astute. They were I remember now that, the amount of space they were getting in wide areas and the rotational elements, Norwich couldn't get close to them. If you remember in that first half midfield areas, they were so wide, so open. So I'm looking to see how Clement overlays, his tactical approach to maybe nullify Ipswich's desire to get on the ball, to dominate possession, move Norwich out of position. And if they do that, and you have to be fairly confident that he will certainly be not found wanting tactically as McKenna makes his way onto the pitch, then I think maybe it will be they booing him. No, okay. I would think it will be. It will come down, as always, to these games moments, isn't it? Big games moments, big derbies moments. And Norwich have plenty of players who can produce moments. Ipswich would probably say the same. So who steps up on the day? Earlier in the season, it was Ipswich's players who grasped it. Prior to that, in the last 16 years, it's more often been not a Norwich player. So for me, I think tactically it'll be fairly even. I think structure-wise, there won't be too much to choose between these. It will just come down to an individual either making, dare one say, a mistake or a little bit of magic, and that will settle it. And let's just hope those players are in yellow and green today.
Yeah, well, you can see there from our poll in the bottom left corner, 77% of those who have gone with that. I've seen plenty of other positive results as well, going for a Norwich win. Not a single person predicting an Ipswich Town victory here. They, of course, last win at Carrow Road came in February 2006, and they haven't completed a league double over Norwich since the early 90s. So it goes to show maybe what is on the line for them, of course, in the derby perspective, but also in that championship promotion race where they are, you'd have to say, in pole position, wouldn't you, with games in hand on both Middlesbrough and Millwall, who played last night, dropped points against West Brom. Norwich obviously did Ipswich a favour on Monday in terms of beating Millwall, and next Sunday, is Middlesbrough against Ipswich at Portman Road. So that feels significant as well in terms of that, probably irrespective really of what happens this afternoon. Which brings us nicely, Paddy, to what you think and what I think on this.
You go first for a change. It's always me.
It is always you. Okay, I'll go first. I mean, we said it on the podcast last week. I've been pretty unwavering in my view. I think Norwich City get over the line here today. I just think the momentum that they've got, the winning mentality that they've shown under Philippe Clement, and yeah, wouldn't it be great if they could add Ipswich Town to a list of clubs? I mean, part of the derby aspect, just in terms of towards the top end of this division, that they are able to go toe-to-toe with and are able to to beat and to add to a list heading into next season that is going to really create and generate some optimism. So, yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-1 Norwich win this afternoon.
Yeah, that's where I am. Yeah, that's where I am. Yeah, I mean, we did the podcast after the Good Friday game. Yeah, went back up the hill, recorded that. We got into the derby predictions. I think. Did you ask us what they'd get in the next 2 games? I think you did.
Yeah, I think we all said 3, didn't we?
Yeah, it shows all. So let's just scrub this section. So yeah, I think we all said Millwall win, defeat, and then win here today. Didn't get that right, but was very confident start of the week. Less so, maybe that's a little bit of apprehension because you always fear what could happen. But as I say, when I was left Colney yesterday, having listened to McLean, listened to Clement, that just sounded like a group of staff who knew what was ahead and were relishing it and couldn't wait to get out there, and not in a play without any brain, just go out and just sort of run around and try and play on emotion and heart on your sleeve. No, it felt like there's a real sense of they know what they need to do. Clement talked up the unity, the togetherness. He sort of said there'd been a lot of laughing and joking this week outside of the serious moments. So it feels like it is a really bonded group. And we have to be honest, you're not telling me Kenny McLean isn't maybe whispering into 1 or 2 players' ears about remember what happened with Nunes, remember what happened at Portman Road, just for an added little bit of a motivation, not that they need it. So all that together, 2-1, 2-1 Norwich, and they'll have to wait maybe for that doubling opportunity that I've seen a few quarters that they're looking for. Thank you. But I just hope it's an absolute unbelievable atmosphere and that the game lives up to it. And obviously Norwich get the right side of it. And if they do,
going to be some fist bumps if they do in front of the bar.
Yeah. Maybe one of the Norwich players will go and wave a flag in the corner flag. That would be nice as well. So yeah, let's hope that's the narrative rather than the alternative. But equally, if it ended up a score draw, I could see that as well. Yeah. So I'll just find it very intriguing. Ken's on the pitch with his coaching staff. Do you think? Yeah. Whether that's working out where Kenny McLean's going to play. They probably should know by now, shouldn't they? But, well away from prying ears and eyes. But, 2-1 Norwich win. Let's get the volume turned up, Connor.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Less than an hour to go until kick-off. If you're coming down to Carrow Road, I always think of in these moments a quote from Daniel Farker when he used to say, what was it? Fire in the... You have to say ice in the...
Ice in the veins.
That's it.
Fire in
the belly, was
blood?
It? Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. Well, it would be helpful if I remembered it, really, but there you go. Pinkin.com, the place to go throughout today. We'll bring you all the coverage, analysis, and reaction to this game. And hopefully that poll and our predictions, for once, come true. East Anglian Derby Day, buckle up. It's going to be a big one. See you soon.